Hello and welcome to another episode of the Best You interview series. It's Gary here again, and today I am joined by Dr. Nicole Bradford to discuss the work that she is currently engaged in to help people break away from their lies, their labels, and their limitations. I'll tell you a little bit more about Dr. Bradford. Dr. Bradford has overcome several challenges in life, including witnessing domestic violence as a child, workplace labels and limitations placed upon her, supervising while young and desiring success while being labelled and disliked by peers and family members. As a first generation college graduate and the youngest of six children, Dr. Bradford began her career working with disenfranchised youth and setting up programs to ensure their success. Dr. Bradford has been fortunate to work as a professor, a vice president of student services, teacher, assistant principal, and campus principal, and is in the process of writing her next book, My Soul Is Not for Sale, which focuses on how we can break away from the lies, labels, and limitations that I mentioned earlier and create the life that you deserve. Dr. Bradford, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here today. Thank you very much for joining me.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too, me too. So let's start at almost the beginning. Can you share how witnessing the domestic violence that was part of your bio there as a younger person helped shape your perspective and fueled your drive to succeed?
Well, of course, like any child, you're looking at the two individuals that you love so much and that you admire. And at times you think about, is this something that has to do with me? What role did I play in this? But of course, it was very hard to see and hard to watch at times, have my mom and my dad to get into physical altercations and to have different situations. And so growing up as a child, witnessing that truly affected me personally. And so I had to go and get help with mental health services, make sure that I received counseling so that I can understand that, Nicole, that was an incident that had nothing to do with you. That was just something that your parents were dealing with at that time. And it helped me to understand that where I was raised does not determine the life that I'm going to have. So I could have a marriage that was healthy. I could raise children in a healthy environment. And so I think that helped me in the long run. The great part of everything is my parents had been together since they were children. So it's important that I share what they experienced because they modeled what they witnessed. And as children, unfortunately, if you're in an unhealthy environment, they could only give me what they had received. You can't give what you don't have. And so they had to get support and learn ways to cope with each other. They were able to restore their relationship and move forward. But it was something that truly impacted my life and helped me to become stronger forward to know I have to allow other people to own up to their situation and what they've created, but know that I'm able to come out of that and create the life that I desire.
Incredible. And it sounds like you had just the absolute sweet spot of support able, available, I should say, to enable you to be able to grow and move forward. In terms of being the youngest of six, how did that impact your relationship with your siblings?
Well, it was a little different. Now, I was actually an oops child. My siblings are like 12 and 13 years older than I am. My
Right.
oldest could basically be my mother. So they kind of grew up together. I guess it was just in groups. So the first group was four of them, and they were very close. And then she had my sister, and then I came 5 years later. My mom actually had her tubes tied. So it's a wonder how I just popped on the scene out of all of that. But my last sister, number five, we were pretty close growing up together. And so we were able to share special memories. But growing up, my family, because I was the first individual to go to college, our expectations from my parents were complete high school, get a great job with the state, and retire. That was the expectation.
Yeah.
And so I was able to move forward and say I wanted more. We all had the same opportunities, but I just chose to go to college and go all the way and complete it. And so that it sometimes when we were growing up, it was great. But then after you go and get your first degree, they're like, okay, that's cool. I'm happy for you. And then you go to the next one, they're like, what are you doing? Is that really necessary? And then you're like, hey, I'm going back for one more. And they're like, insane. So it starts to put some strain on your relationship because some siblings can think, oh, okay, she thinks she's better than us because she has all this education. And that definitely wasn't the case. It's just that I wanted something different for my life and also for the children that would come into my life in the future. And so that was the process. We were great younger growing up. And then as I became an adult and started to do some things that were out of our norm, it started to put some stress on our relationships.
Yeah. It sounds like you took ownership and you took action and decided this is the best path for me. I'm going to choose that. If you're here with me, fabulous. If you're not, that's
Mhm.
okay as well.
Yes. And that's mainly, I think, how I've lived my entire life. I've always been able to choose the road less traveled. And it's uncomfortable at times because, all of us want to be accepted. All of us want to have friends and to be the cool thing. And so when you're young, and I think that's how I came up with maintain the flame, because when you're young, you have this excitement for life. You're like, yes, someone can see you're in the grocery store, you're dancing, you're playing all over the place, everyone's your friend and you're loving life. And then you start to transition to the adult life and you're looking around and you're like, wait a minute, you're trying to find out, where do I fit here? So
Yeah.
then for me, I went from my family and then I went to in-laws. And with in-laws, I don't know if you've seen the movie Meet the Fockers. Have you
Yes, I
seen
have.
that movie? I
Yes, I have.
love that movie, one of my favorite movies. But it makes me think about how some of our expectations of others, are you going to be in that circle? And
Yeah.
so at times I was not in that circle because I wasn't what they wanted me to be. And I had to be okay with that because I want my own traditions. I want to start my own family. And so I had to be okay with who I was. And so it led me into the workplace. And there you have to hold on to that integrity in the workplace. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, we have individuals that may turn a blind eye, or I'm not going to say anything about that. But if you're that individual that has that strength and that fortitude to say, I'm sorry, we need to take another look at that. That's not right, especially in education. We've got to treat these children fairly. And when you do that, you're labeled as a troublemaker, or you can have different labels that are applied to you. But you have to be strong enough to understand I'm not going to accept those lies. I'm not going to accept those labels that you choose to put on me. And I'm definitely not going to accept those limitations because there's more to life and I'm going to do what's right.
Yeah. That's your lies, your labels, and your limitations,
That's
not
right.
mine.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
you got a chance to be in the workplace and lead early in your career as a younger adult, and I did the same. I was 20 when I started to get into supervisory roles in my career, and that comes with its own challenges in terms of my
Yes.
own insecurities, the credibility that I have not yet fashioned in the
Yes.
industry that I was in. Can you share, particularly challenging experiences that you faced while in similar circumstances and how you managed to turn those into opportunities for growth?
Well, I think it's just like you said. I myself started in my late 20s in the role of a supervisor, and I was very fortunate to do that. So you're dealing with your personal issues like, okay, I got to get it together. I got to go in here. I already have some things stacked against me, but I can do this. They put me in this position, I can handle it. But then you also encounter individuals that may be challenging. Wait, what do you mean you're going to tell me what to do? And my line I heard all the time was, you're young enough to be my daughter. I could be your mother. And yes, you're correct. However, I am the supervisor. So this is how we're going to work things out. So what I would try to do, which is uncomfortable at times, and people shouldn't have to do it, but I would kind of dummy myself down to be accepted by them so that they would be able to say, okay, fine, she's okay as a supervisor. But majority of the time, I try to come into any situation and build relationships. I'm very big on relationships. That makes the difference. And so when I go into a situation, I want them to know you may be 65 and I'm 32, but we need to come together and do what's best for children. And in the field of education, I always directed everyone back to, what are we doing for our kids? Is this good for children? And if it's not, it's okay that we have a difference of opinion, but we have got to come up with a solution that's going to serve our children. And so trying to let them know that this is a partnership, that I am a team player, trying to let people see me in a different light, not just someone that would just bark out orders, someone that would work with you. But even when you do that, sometimes some people may not even be okay with you because they're not okay with themselves. But I was able to overcome those challenges, and I was fortunate enough to continue to move up the ladder, and I was successful in those roles. But understanding that you try your best to understand the other person, try different approach to try to build that relationship with them. But at the end of the day, you have a job to do. And so you're going to have to lead with strength, honor, and integrity.
Yeah, and the word that you used quite often there, Dr. Bradford, was situational, and having that situational awareness and that
Yes.
emotional intelligence understanding of what it's going to take, and then maybe you talked about somewhat compromising yourself to
Yes.
say there's a different way that I could maybe reach this specific person, but then bringing it all back to the end
Mhm.
goal and the end game of saying, why are we all here? Taking the
Exactly.
person and personalities out of it, and any
Mhm.
ego and or any other emotional turbulence that's present, and giving yourself the opportunity to say the whole reason we're all here is for the kids.
Ex-
Is
Exactly.
this interaction helping the kids? Doesn't feel like it is. We should
Yes.
probably do something about that.
That's right.
Absolutely. So just in terms
Yes.
of the work that you've done with disenfranchised youth, and the programs for success, how did that come about in terms of your education and then your work experience? Was that always the target?
Well, when I went into college, unfortunately, I have family members that have been in and out of the criminal justice system. I grew up, and I've had family members that sold drugs and things of that nature. And I knew that that's not what I wanted for my life. And I've always had a passion for helping underprivileged or overlooked or the underdog, because at times I felt like I was the underdog. And so I felt that connection. When I went to college, I actually wanted to study criminal justice. And I had a double major of criminal justice and education because my goal was to open my own school. But then when I was there in Louisiana, they told me you'd have to go back to Texas and still be certified. So I just finished my first two degrees in criminal justice, and my last degree, my doctoral degree, is in education administration. But I love having the opportunity to connect with others. And I think it came from my mother being my example, because she was always trying to help other children in the community. My dad would help people get jobs. He owned a janitorial company, and I think that's where a lot of my passion and desire came from. But it's something that I'm committed to. I've worked with several nonprofits, for profits, but my goal is to make sure that they understand that they have potential to be anything that they put their mind to.
Incredible. What would you say has been thus far the most
Mhm.
rewarding aspect of your educational journey to date in terms of the education work you're doing for youth?
And position wise, the job,
Yes.
I would say anything, either teaching or being an administrator. I like the administrator being an assistant principal and principal because it gives you more flexibility. You have a farther reach with children, but not only are you just working with the kids, you're not in the classroom just teaching, but you're in a capacity where you can bring parents in when there are issues, and you can work on family dynamics. You can give them a different perspective. You can advocate for students that are afraid to say certain things to their parents, but you can sit down and put it in context for them so they can understand, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know I was hurting them when I was doing X, Y, and Z, or when I was telling them, I demand that you major in medicine, instead of giving them a voice in their path and in their life and in their future. So I think as an administrator, you're able to wear multiple hats, just like an educator, but you're in that role to kind of drive change a little bit more.
That's
And
such
so
a,
my students charge me. It's just like your cell phone
yeah.
when you put it in the wall.
Oh,
If I'm
yes.
not around my kids, and they always say, you think all of us are your kids. If I'm not around my babies, and my charge, it starts to weaken. So that's how I recharge, being around kids and helping them overcome challenges. And when they're sad, being able to be silly, but have those heart to heart conversations, to cry with them and keep them encouraged. I think it truly helps me more than it's helping
I'm fairly sure that's probably not the case, but that's a nice way to put it. I was going to say there that it's such a unique perspective, an expansive perspective that you have on that. I was chatting with a friend of mine a couple of weeks back now, almost a couple of weeks back, and who's a teacher,
them.
and you know, essentially, you know, kind of at the peak of his classroom, you know, he's a supervisor of other teachers and such, but not quite in the administration path just
Mhm.
yet. And I was asking, you know, his opinion about whether he would be interested in going further and maybe looking at assistant principal, or other
Mhm.
roles around there. And he was dead against it, you know,
Mhm.
because he thought, you know, he didn't have the same level of thinking or exposure or motivations, quite frankly,
Mhm.
that you do. And he was thinking more, I would be less, I would be diluted in my impact that I can have to the kids
Mhm.
if I get burdened by admin and evening meetings and,
Yeah.
you know, further things that he probably doesn't quite enjoy anyway. So
Yeah.
it's such a good way to be able to think that it's not one size fits all and it's not for everyone. If you can find that sweet spot, then
Hmm.
you're in, you know, where you're going to thrive, then you have
Exactly.
a better opportunity to help others do the exact same.
Yeah. And I think that's so important for all of us in life. You have to figure out what's going to serve you best. And it also depends on the environments that you're in. But when you have that passion and that motivation, that's going to continue to you're going to be excited. I got to get up this morning. I got to get there to school. And, I'll have students that haven't had anything to eat and they're, Dr. B, I didn't have breakfast. And, they'll come in and raid my snack cabinet. But whatever, or Dr. B, I didn't have time to shower this morning. And okay, go over there, here's some deodorant and some perfume or some cologne. But I try to keep things because I want them to feel confident. I want them to be okay. And I want them to know that they have someone there to support them.
Incredible. Fantastic. That's amazing. On to your book, My Soul is Not for Sale, which focuses, as I mentioned earlier, on breaking away from the lies, labels, and limitations that we've discussed a little bit. Can you give us a glimpse into what inspired you to write this book?
Well, the title, believe it or not, has been inside of me for years and years, and I had no idea why that was placed in me. I just kept coming back to it. I'm like, I don't think it's time yet. But I think because of the challenges that I have experienced in the workplace and running into the brick walls and being the individual, sometimes having that high integrity can sometimes make you invisible to individuals that were always your friend and supporting you. And I thought it was very important that I sit down and write down how important it is for us to go into the workplace, especially for people that are taking on new roles and responsibilities, or even young people coming out of college and going into the workplace. And it also gives a different perspective for supervisors, because just because you have a title, you're not that title. Just because you go into a position, you have to understand, just like we live in this society where there is racism and discrimination, and we have narcissists, and we have all these issues we deal with in our community. Unfortunately, some of that still exists in our workplace. And so we just need someone that's going to help guide us along that journey so you can be successful and give you tools so you're able to survive. One of the chapters that I talk about in the book is the biases in the building. A lot of us believe, oh my gosh, she's just out of her mind. That never happens. Are you kidding me? But let's be honest. You leave and you're on the weekend and you're drinking and you're listening to your music and talking to your friends and whatever it is that you enjoy. And do you honestly think that on Monday morning, I'm able to shed all of my beliefs and all of the things that I think and all of my biases at the front door? And then I'm going to walk into the building and say, okay, I'm ready to go. I see you with a perfect set of eyes, and there's no biases here. Well, we would be a little naive and not honest about that. So I think it's important that we have the strength to be able to discuss this and have the courage to sit down and say, oh, I didn't know that certain individuals like doing that, or I didn't know that it wasn't okay to make that type of statement. And we need to educate ourselves so we're able to create an environment at work where everyone feels comfortable. And that applies also in our relationships. We need to understand my soul is not for sale. I don't have to give up who I am to be with you. You're just as important as I am, and we need to compromise in this relationship. So it gives you tools on how to work with those individuals. We address the biases in the building. There's another chapter that talks about L kids. And I know people are thinking, what in the world is L kids? Well, it's little kids in big bodies. And I've always believed that. We all have that inner child. And unfortunately, you may be in a workplace or you may be in a relationship with someone that never dealt with their issues that they had as a child. So they bring it into the workplace or they bring it into your relationship, and you need to know how to deal with it. And then one of the other concepts we talk about is the idea of being able to flush. What do you think that's about?
It's obviously something bathroom related.
Yes. Yes. Well, when my sister right before me, Felicia, she was number 5.
Yeah.
And whenever I would have issues, she would say, Nicole, I want you to go into your private space, wherever you want to go. I want you to get a piece of toilet tissue and I want you to write out things that you're frustrated about, things that you're angry, things that hurt you. And then I want you to reflect on it. I want you to find out your role in it. I want you to pray on it. Then I want you to ball it up and I want you to flush it. And it's facing life's uncomfortable situations and heal. And it's when we're able to go through that process that we're able to move forward in a positive manner.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that sounds like 3 incredible concepts to be able to have people just think a little bit differently about the situation and circumstances. On the biases, very powerful. And I don't know if you explain that literally in the book the way that you explained it here today, but you live your life with everyone and everything that you choose to outside,
Mhm.
and it's the difficulty or the strain that that would put on
Yeah.
oneself to try and completely take that away. And then the key part that you said there in terms of letting everyone be themselves, but adding the importance of education, not punishment, not immediate
Exactly.
banishment for someone saying something or acting in a certain way,
Hmm.
but saying that's not okay. Let me tell you why, and let's work together to get to a spot where we can have a better experience with each other.
Hmm.
Very, very powerful, incredible way to
Thank
put
you.
it. So tell me about the maintain model.
Well, maintain, I came up with this acronym, and it just gives you 8 strategies that you can apply to your life immediately to design the life that you desire. So I took the word maintain, and we all know maintain is you've got to keep going. And so with maintain, I've broken it down to 8 strategies. The first one is M. It's going to be mindset. Make sure that you have a positive mindset in life. And I know you can either be one of those individuals that, oh, I've been here 60 years. This is how we do it. And by golly, get out of here with those new ideas. We're not going to try it. You're new to this campus or you're new to this job. Well, you want to not have a fixed mindset, but a growth mindset. So being able to say, okay, well, I didn't look at it that way. Or can you give me some more information? Researching it so you can grow and you can expand and you can be better off for it. So making sure that you are positive, but also along with being positive, that you're willing to grow. So that positive mindset is important. The second step is A for action. We must take action. So I don't care what it is that you're interested in, make sure that you take action towards your goal. So that may mean that I'm turning 50 this year and I've always wanted to wear a bikini, but I have baby fat from my baby that's 21 years old. And it's time that I get that baby fat off. So I have to know that, okay, it's time for me to get up. Well,
Yeah.
I don't have to go run a marathon. I can walk to the stop sign and back. So all you need to do is take some type of action every day towards your goal. The next one is I, be intentional. And as you're designing the life that you want, you have to be intentional about the goals that you set and intentionally working towards those goals. And it also includes making sure that you have a great support system around you. So build strong relationships. And maybe if some relationships haven't worked out the best, go back and revisit those relationships and figure out what went wrong and be able to be intentional to let those people know how important they are in your lives. Sometimes we let grudges and unforgiveness harbor, and then when that person's gone, we're not able to address those concerns. So be intentional with the type of life that you want to live. The next one is nurture. You have to nurture yourself. Nurture yourself and nurture those around you. But most importantly, take time to take care of yourself. So if you have to commute home, if you want to listen to the best talk show on your way home, or if you want to go home and say, I just need 5 minutes, you go in the bedroom, you soak your feet, you decompress, and then you come back and you able to engage with everyone else. But making sure that you have time to nurture yourself. Then the T is for being tenacious. You must be tenacious with life. You have to go after it with vigor and enjoy the life that you have. The next A is going to be authentic. Stop showing up as someone else. Stop showing up as someone that you think people want you to be. It's really okay. You get one shot at this. I was watching a documentary the other day, and I love this point a young lady made. And it may be a little harsh for some, but I love how she said her dad always told her, you have one life, so live full and die empty. And so many of us are leaving so much on the table because I'm too old for that, or I'm 56. Why would I go roller skating today? Because you want to. Or why would I start that podcast? Well, because that's something that you're interested in. Quit being concerned about everyone else around you, because I promise they're not concerned about you and what you think about them. So put that energy into yourself. So after that, we have the next I is going to be integrity. That is huge for me. Being able to stand on your 2 feet and say, this is what I believe in, this is what I support. That integrity means everything. So you have to be able to take the road less traveled. You have to know that that integrity comes with consequences, but be okay and be able to hold on to your integrity. And the last letter is N, non-negotiables. Come up with your non-negotiables. You have standards for a reason. You want to make sure you have those non-negotiables so you have no regrets when your time is up. So those are just 8 small steps that you can take to design the life that you desire.
I love this. When we were getting to know each other before we started recording, I had
Mhm,
shared that one of my first early jobs in my leadership management career was called a maintenance officer. That was my title. And
mhm,
maintenance in and of itself, it was in social housing back home in Scotland, and it was essentially just helping maintain the structures, maintain the living
mhm.
the dwellings where people were living. And after a period of time, it was kind of boring, and I kind of mean that almost metaphorically in terms of it's the stuff that people don't see that keep things going.
That's
And
right.
there's a reason that that structure is still sitting there in full
Mhm,
integrity 60 years after it was constructed, because it's been properly maintained. You've looked after it, you've done the cyclical things that need to get done, you've taken care of the ad hoc things that have happened to it, and you've maintained a solid structure for people to build a home, essentially,
yes.
within this structure. So it was such a I don't know if it's a dichotomy in my head where I'm kind of thinking it's boring, but it's certainly not boring in an insulting way. It's
Mhm,
it's these things. It's so important. And the
that's
work
right.
that you do in terms of your own maintenance, your life maintenance, your health
Mhm,
maintenance, your career maintenance and such is the cornerstone, the foundation of absolutely everything you're doing. So I just so appreciate that word coming out, and then the information that you shared in and around the word as well. And I hope that the listeners get that as well. I absolutely love it. So just
mhm.
as we're almost wrapping up for today, Dr. Bradford, how do you balance the expectations and pressures from others that probably still remain today with staying true to your own values and goals. That was something that kind of came out from the maintain model in terms of
Mhm.
integrity and such. How do you balance those expectations?
The way that I stay balanced, number one, is my faith, and I have to be okay with myself. And I think in our society and our culture, where there's a lot of pressure, and so we tend to give in to that pressure, and we're not okay with who we are because we're trying to wait until somebody else tells us. So that's powerful, and it can destroy who you are in the life that you choose to live because they're never going to make up their mind what they want from you. Today I need for you to be my coffee person and bring me my coffee on time. Well, why was it late? Tomorrow, make sure that you buy me a donut on the way. Like, you're never going to be able to please everyone else. So you have to start by pleasing yourself. And that's something that I learned over time in counseling. And I think that's so true. And that helped me to stay strong when I'm dealing with situations when individuals may not accept me for who I am, or want to change me according to their expectations. And that's easy if I didn't know who I was. But I know that I want a life that I enjoy. I want to be authentic, and I want to help other people. And so it's okay. I'm fine when I walk in the office and they're like, Bradford, it's way too early for all of that. That's just my energy. I've been this way since I've been a child. I've the one in the Walmart doing cartwheels down the aisle for no reason. So if I have a moment and it's full of enjoyment and I want to do something and it's on my heart and I'm not hurting anyone, I want to make the most of that moment. So being in touch with myself, knowing who I am, what I want, and what I deserve is what keeps me going.
I love that. And I know that for some, that can be quite an uncomfortable journey to
Mhm.
getting to truly understanding all the things that you just said, getting to know oneself, getting to truly live into that, and then dealing with the word that you used earlier was consequences, dealing with the outputs of that it might not suit other people. That's
That's
their
right.
bag to lift. That's
Mhm.
not your bag to lift for them. And it reminded me of the book Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. I don't know if you've read that book or
Yes,
not.
yes.
And in that he talks about being selfish to be selfless.
Hmm.
And I say that in the context of your response there, that sometimes it can be uncomfortable for people. They would feel, I don't look after myself. I look after everyone else. That's my job. That's what I'm known for. And if I was to
Hmm.
do something for myself, I would just feel like the most selfish person on the planet. And what I try to say to coaching clients and friends and family for that matter is, if you're not okay, nothing else works. Even if it looks like it's working, it's a facade, that
Hmm.
will eventually fade away or disintegrate or spectacularly blow up in your
Yes.
face. So taking that time to be selfish, I almost wish there was a different word that
Yeah.
had a slightly less negative connotation. But if you do the selfish acts, then your ability to be selfless is
Mhm.
exponentially increased, in terms of your ability to serve.
Mhm. And that's very important, especially, for anyone in general, but especially for moms, because that's how we're wired. We want to do everything and solve everyone's problem and be there. And I had to learn. I have three amazing children. And I know at first that people are like, I don't know about that, Nicole. But number one, I'm not the best cook. But secondly, this is a big house and it's five of us. I'm not doing all of this.
Yeah.
So my kids learned very early, you're going to wash your clothes. And I read an article or something about this lady and I was like, well, okay, I'll try it. And our home is a training ground. I want you to succeed and I want you to fail in this house. I want you to know it's okay because I'm not going to set you up for failure. So we're going to learn and grow together. And so I have to teach you what you're going to need to survive. And it takes all of us. And I always shared with them that I'm just as human as you are. I have good days, I have bad days. I'm happy, I cry, I'm human. But I'm not going to wash everybody's clothes, fold everybody's clothes, and take it. No, 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 no. This is your basket. This is how you wash clothes. And they've been doing it since like fifth grade. We're through fifth grade. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes we think kids don't know how to do that. If you put it there, you're going to put it up. I'm not going to wash all these dishes. And so it made them more accountable, and they took ownership in the household, and they understood we're a team and it takes all of us doing our part to keep it working and functioning correctly. So to some that may have been a little harsh, and it took me a while to understand that because I wanted to make everyone happy,
Yeah.
but I was killing Nicole in the process.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes we just have to take a step back and know that this is not too harsh. It's okay for them to make a bowl of cereal on their own. It's okay. We don't have to serve and be there at their beck and call, because this is our training ground. And I'm teaching you the skills that you need so you're going to be able to be independent when you leave the home.
I love that. The safety and security of
Yeah.
failing here. We will fail and succeed together. And everything I can tell just by your energy, everything is from a position of love.
Oh,
You know,
most
love,
definitely.
love for thyself, love for them, and preparing them for the trials and tribulations of what their lives are going to be like when eventually they're doing their own thing at the same time.
Hmm.
Excellent. Where can the listeners learn more about you, Dr. Bradford?
Well, I have a website, so they can visit www.maintaintheflame, all one word, .net.
Wonderful. Excellent. I cannot thank you enough for being part of this conversation today. You've inspired me. I think my son will be disappointed by the conversation, especially the latter part there, because
Yes.
he's going to get some extra stuff to do here
Yes.
around the place just because I love him very, very much.
That's right. That's right.
And thank you very much for taking the time out today. I've thoroughly enjoyed getting a chance to know you a bit better and learning a little bit more about your book and about your models. And I wish you the very best of success in the future.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. And thank you so much for the podcast. You're helping so many.